Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome. Happy to see you here. And for people online also, welcome. We're happy we have the capacity to do streaming through the kindness of so many helpers, etc. So let's begin this morning just sitting quiet. It's one of the main practices here at KCC, just calming our minds and hearts. So when we sit like this, we're not trying to do anything. What a relief. We're not even trying to meditate, because if we try, then we won't be meditating. So in these few moments, just assume that you are no one special, going nowhere special, and that there's no need to plan the future, which you can't control anyway, even through our plans. There's no need to review the past because it's gone, completely gone. And simply be in the present. Now, being in the present is not our habit. All of us have cultivated the habit of future thinking, past thinking, As you get to know your mind, when you sit quietly, you really see that, wow, I'm always planning the next thing or reviewing something that happened. And then we miss the present, which is the only space we can actually be in, so to speak. So we need kind of an anchor, most of us. Unless you've been meditating a long, long time, you'll need some kind of anchor to come back to as the mind wanders around. And the most common one to choose is the breath. It's handy, it's right there. And until we die, it will always be with us. So see if you can apply your attention to the breath without changing it, without manipulating or controlling it, but simply noticing what the breath is already doing. One technique is to notice the air going in and out, either at the nostrils or the belly. And you can become very curious about your breath. Wow, maybe this breath is really different from all the other breaths that I've taken in my life. You can notice breaths have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that often there's a kind of a quiet gap after you naturally exhale. Simply to notice that gap. Not with commenting, but just, yes, I see that. Now, as we do this, of course, the mind wanders everywhere. Into bodily sensations, out the door, into the future, into the past, into why did she wear that shirt today, into looking at the person in front of you. Just note that and bring the attention back to the breath. With no judgment, no comment, just back to the breath. So we'll do this for about 5 minutes. Now, let's take a moment in this quiet, or at least quieter mind, hopefully. If not, that's okay. Take a moment to think about our motivation. Motivation's so important. Why am I doing this? Why am I listening to the Dharma today? And whatever answer you get, expand that to include all living things. Realize that you can pinpoint where you are, your relative self in the universe, by noting where your body is, but expand out in never-ending concentric circles. The people here in the room next to you, or wherever you are, the neighbors, the neighborhood, the city, the state, the country, crossing the oceans, covering all the world, and realizing the earth is most likely not the only place where there are living beings, expanding out. And because we're in the Buddhist worldview, we can expand time both directions, beginningless, endless, uncountable beings. We're completely connected to them. So let's wish that whatever we do here today, it will be of benefit to them. It will help them in their lives. It will bring them peace, happiness, wisdom, compassion. And then let's wish that deeply for our own selves too. Okay, we're going to talk about the 6 paramitas again. It's an endless discussion. So let's start with, anytime you talk about the Dharma, you study the Dharma, it's like a giant, I think of the Hindu metaphor of Indra's net, which touches everything in all universes, completely interconnected. So when you touch one part, the whole net reverberates. And this is how the Dharma is. You try to pull one little piece and you're pulling everything. So the way we organize that, mass of information, massive, beautiful wisdom and compassion. There's many ways, but one way, and we talked about it last time, is the 3 turnings of the wheel. So we've got the foundational Pali, sometimes called Theravada teachings at the base, which are all about personal liberation. Actually, it kind of comes down to that. Personal liberation from cyclical suffering. Then, I'm really summarizing here, but then the second turning is the Mahayana, and that's where the 6 perfections fit into, okay? And Mahayana meaning greater wheel. Maha, higher, yana, always wheel. Vehicle. So, in the Mahayana, the main difference with the Pali or fundamental vehicle, also called Hinayana, lower, but I don't use Hinayana because they can consider that. Mahayana's made up the word Hinayana. The fundamental path people did not call themselves Hinayana, so no one goes around calling themselves lower unless they're trying to get rid of their self-centeredness. So Mahayana should be working on I am the lowest of all, but that's another teaching. In the middle path, the middle turning, the Mahayana, the main distinction is now the mind says, well, I see my deep interconnectedness, so I see there's really no way to liberate myself without liberating every single sentient being. So a person takes what's called the great vow. Beings are limitless. I vow to end the suffering of all of them. Well, that's just totally crazy. And it's also crazy not to do that. If you really look, it's like kind of a bind that we're in. But we're always put in that bind by our own self-centeredness. There's no real bind, okay? But the self-centeredness says, wow, I can't possibly save all beings. And the other one says, wow, but I'm totally interconnected. How could I just save myself? And as they say in the Mahayana, leave my dear mothers in the hell realm, or leave them starving, or how could I do that, So we'll be talking a lot more about that Mahayana, and then I'll just touch on the third turning is the Vajrayana, the diamond vehicle, it's considered quicker, it's considered only for some people, not everyone. You have to work very closely with a teacher because just like anything, if you go fast, you got to be more careful, right? You drive your car faster, you drive a race car, you better have a really good team supporting you, right? So I'll just say that about it because in part it can build the ego to a dangerous level by that quicker path. Okay. So we're going to talk about, we're in the middle turning here, and we're going to talk about Bodhisattva activity. So what's Bodhisattva? Bodhi, Buddha, awake, all the same root word. Can you hear back there? Can you hear clear? Okay. The awake mind, the fully aware mind. It doesn't just mean the kind of awake we are right now. You all look pretty awake. But it means the awakened mind that knows its own awareness, is aware of its awareness, and able to use that awareness in a way that can constantly benefit beings and never, ever creates any suffering. It's done with that. Isn't that great? It is completely done with suffering, completely done with anxiety, completely done with doubt, completely done with hostility, completely done with craving. This is the Bodhi mind. Sattva simply means being, okay? So this is a being with that mind. Now, why isn't it a Buddha? Because that sounds pretty Buddha-like. Well, because I just misspoke. I see. And what I just described is the Buddha mind, fully awakened. The Bodhisattva's on the way to that, but the Bodhisattva hasn't completely understood the concept of interbeing or emptiness or dependent origination. They're on their way. They have parts of that down. They still feel afflictions. They still feel emotional affliction. The difference is they don't believe it anymore. So you might even, if you practiced a while, notice moments like this. Like, I used to get really angry and I would act it out. I still do it sometimes. But in those moments, I believed my story 100%. It was like, I am right, he is wrong, and he is bad, I am good. Except I'm also kind of bad because I'm angry. So very stuck in this good, bad, good, bad. As we practice, that starts wearing away. So we're like, oh, I see my anger's here. I see it, I feel it, it's hard to control, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it anymore. I don't believe there's just one story. I don't believe my story's more accurate than anyone else's. So we're more cautious. We're more open. Make sense? Hopefully you've felt some of this. If you haven't, keep practicing and you will. Guaranteed. So this is how the Bodhisattva goes, many, many levels through all of those kind of. Basically, what the Mahayana path is a path of transformation. So what are we transforming? We're transforming this set of aggregates. I'm touching my body as part of the aggregates, but also our minds, our habits, our mental habits, our emotions. We're transforming all of that from a set of aggregates that's stuck in suffering to one that ends suffering. That's the transformation. So in that middle path, in that second turning, we have to have a blueprint. Okay? I mean, you can't transform anything without some kind of blueprint. Like, well, what's the thing now? And I have to understand what it is now. And what am I trying to go for? You know, where's the map here? So this is where the 6 perfections, so-called perfections, or paramitas, fit in. They're both a shift and transformation in attitude, and then a shift and transformation in actions. And when Buddhism talks about actions, it's always talking 3 doors. You may, in your reading, you'll see there's 3 doors. The 3 doors are the body, speech, and mind. So sometimes we as Westerners don't put the word action with mind. You know, we just think action is speech and bodily movement. In Buddhism, action is mind. Mind is acting. You start thinking about that, you can see the truth in it. Because the body and speech don't do anything without the mind. Not one single thing. Really important to grasp. Body and speech don't do one single thing without the mind. The mind is the forerunner of everything. So all of the transformation practices, and the 6 perfections are kind of the main one in the Mahayana path, but all of them are directed towards training the mind. Because if you, I have this Catholic nun friend, and she always has this metaphor of, she grew up in the Northwest, so she's like, okay, there's a log jam in the lake, and you're trying to get the logs to go down the river. You don't have to go start at the back and pull every log. You just have to find the 1 or 2 that are jamming it. You pull them out, and they all cascade down where you want them to go. So this is our task, you know. But it's about our own minds. One of the things I was reading, getting ready for this class, was how often, and now I understand something that Lama Michael says that I didn't understand. He would say, be careful you're not using the Dharma for entertainment. And I was like, what's he talking about? I know I'm not watching, a movie or, but it's that we will listen to the Dharma, we'll read the teachings, we'll listen online, we'll watch them. We don't apply them. We think, that's nice. Now I'm going to go do whatever. I'm going to go do my garden, play chess, watch a movie, make my dinner. All of those things are fine, but we've now left everything about the blueprint. It's like, I like that blueprint. Fold it up, put it in a drawer, go live by some other blueprint. Make sense? Do you see? This is the thing that the Dalai Lama was saying in a book I was reading this week is, it's very personal. That's the word he used. These teachings are personal. They're for you. They belong to you. You need to pick them up and use them. So I could be talking about gardening here and showing you, some clippers and a trowel. And then you'd say, that's cool. And you go off and just not use the clippers and the trowel. So these are yours, okay? What I'm saying here is yours. When the teacher said these to me, they're mine. This is your practice, okay? You came here, and that means you have the karma to hear about the Bodhisattva path. You don't have to adopt it right now today. You don't have to take the 18 Bodhisattva vows or whatever. But you've already got some karma with this path. So respect that. Treat yourself well that way. Listen in a way where you know this is for you. And what that also means is you have to work it. You have to say, this part I know I can do a little bit because I know me. This part, well, no way right now, but I'll just see it like a star in the sky, shining brightly. I want to get there someday, but I know I can't do that today. So work it like that, okay? Now, what does that take? So we're transforming ourselves into becoming fully awakened beings. Wow. Okay. So first of all, you can start a zillion places, but this is one place that's been very helpful for me. Start with your own goodness and the goodness of others. This is not something that our culture tends to emphasize. In fact, in most cultures, and especially Judeo-Christian influenced cultures, which ours is very Judeo-Christian influenced, people are kind of considered bad to start with, whether, like me, you started way fundamental Catholic, very bad, original sin, born with bad, and only, Jesus saves you. It's always such a puzzle to me, like how this Jewish rabbi guy saved us, and then we aren't Jewish, but anyway, I won't go there. It's always been a puzzle because humans twist things around, but whether you have that or a Protestant kind of path, which the country's more majority Protestant, bad. Yeah, Protestants are bad too. There's always something to fix, You're kind of bad and you've got to fix this, okay? Buddhism doesn't start there. Buddhism starts within each sentient, that is, any living being, including insects, animals, fish, birds, teeny tiny, microscopic, anything that will react to heat, cold, to its environment. Not plants, because, I don't know, it's interesting about plants, but what the Dalai Lama said when I looked it up is they don't move, but they do move towards the sun, but they don't pull their roots up and run around, you know. So that's the distinction they're making. But every single sentient being has this Buddha nature within. Now, if we just understood that, think just for a nanosecond, how would your mental, physical, and speech actions change? If you could hold that all day long, you go over to New Seasons, and you knew every person there has Buddha nature. Every homeless person, every mean dog, every Donald Trump, every whatever. Buddha nature, manifesting some kind of Buddha nature. So what's the problem is that all of us, including us, who are judging them, that's not Buddha nature, and we're forgetting ours, we all have this piled on habits of suffering, which mean that we are not able to fully manifest that Buddha nature right now. That's the transformation, okay, that we're looking at. Make sense? Okay. So we can't just go, wow, I already have Buddha nature, so cool, whatever I do is cool. It's Buddha nature, so if I indulge in my addictions or scream at you, well, that's Buddha nature. If you don't like it, that's your problem. This is not the path. And also the path is not, well, I'm really bad and full of problems and there's something constantly to fix up. And I call that the Department of Constant Improvement. That one will drive us crazy. So the teachers have given us these blueprints, and all we need to do is learn them and apply them, okay? Learn and apply. And some people will say, including myself as I came to Buddhism, wow, those are too hard. I can't do that. I've got a full list already of stuff I'm doing, stuff I am doing, this, that, and other thing. But as I've practiced the path, what I've noticed is it's harder to not do it, put it that way. It's much harder to not practice the path. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize the cost of not practicing the path. I was only saying, I don't want to add another thing to do. But I was already doing a lot of stuff that was making my list longer and longer and longer. Like small thing, oh, now I have to apologize to my sister because I just blew it, you know. Well, if I never did the nasty speech, that one wouldn't be on the list. Small example, but it goes on and on like this. So much harder not to practice the path. I say that because now we're going to talk about a bunch of things to do. Yeah.
Is this a moment that we might pause for a second? Because the streaming is not working, and a lot of people have registered and are trying to get the streaming.
Wow.
So if this is a moment to pause,
yeah, it's perfect.
maybe we can just address this for like a couple minutes or something.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to just take, let's just take a 5-minute stretch, get some tea if you want. We want to include those who are trying to stream, and evidently there's technical difficulties.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of people, there's a big discussion.
Yeah, I know. I heard from them last
wasn't aware of it.
night.
I'm on
They
chat,
wanted to
nobody's
be on. Yeah, so just take a stretch and get some more tea, whatever.
Here.
Okay.
So I don't know what's
Is this
wrong.
the first time?
No, this is the second time I've done this.
Okay, and it
Honestly,
worked the first time?
yeah, but I had Peter sort of helping me, so.
Okay.
let me
It
just-
must be.
What's that?
Said I wouldn't have to turn my headset.
Yeah, last time it was funny too, everybody for some reason kind of over there. I was like, come on over here. Now, it's Jillian.
But I,
Is that it? Jillian, okay.
Let me see if I have
Okay.
it on my.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, good to see you again.
Thank you.
What's happening, Miriam?
I don't know, it looks fine to me,
I
but
went for something.
other people apparently are not seeing it.
Is it YouTube yet?
It is YouTube. I was trying to do it on YouTube, so.
Peter sent out a URL last night to me because I asked him what's
Yeah,
happening.
and
Did
I
you
sent
get
it to a
it?
bunch of people too, and I'm using it, and a lot of people are trying to use it, but it's not, no one's getting anything, so.
Really? Because I'm on supposedly watching what we're doing, but
I mean, people are at the KCC media place. Let me see the thing that you're watching.
this is it. This is how I'm supposed to be watching this.
Okay, but I mean, you're not on another window or anything.
Yeah, there's two different windows. This is the window for what's happening right now, and supposedly this is the broadcast.
But that's part of the interface. This would, so this should be what people are seeing.
Right, but
YouTube Live.
I'm wondering if I accidentally stopped it without realizing.
Well, you never know.
Well, there's nothing saved either.
And yeah, and you know what's frustrating is having done this last week on 10 or 9 or whatever it was, I don't see it listed here. So should I just stop this and say,
I think we need to stop and get someone.
Okay.
Like the mine was trying to get out.
I think when I missed one to my chat.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you can. Yeah, it was kind of like that one that I missed.
I'm watching now, I guess that's the only one.
But yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let me go get my phone and see, okay.
Okay, why don't you get your phone and see if you have, otherwise I'll reach out.
You know what I mean? And she said not to say anything. But she didn't, wasn't confirmed, she didn't know.
Yes.
Yeah. I know she had directly, but.
Well, no, I'm.
I think that